Welcome students to our lesson 5. And lesson 5 will have topic 9 and topic 10. So in topic 9, we are going to look at organizational change, what we can also call organizing change, because in every organization, things will not just remain the same. Meaning organizational culture is not static, but it is dynamic, meaning it's flexible, it changes, things will change. You may not have one manager for the last 10 years. He can still go away and you get another one. You may not have the same rules and regulations all the years. Things will change. And this amount to what we call organizational change. So fundamentally, we are going to look at the fundamental dimensions of change. What is it that we want to understand about change as far as an organization is concerned? And we are saying that one common refrain is that there's nothing so constant as change. Look at that. Change as a noun, change as a verb. So when you look at change as a noun, then it's not constant. But when you look at change as a verb, it's constant, because change will always remain constant, meaning change is always changing. Because of this, there is no one best way to organize in all circumstances, because what is changing, you cannot really control it per se. But from scholarly point of view, we have what it takes to bring it about in a way that it will not receive resistance. So we are saying effective managers need to be aware of the various factors that drive the need for change. They are supposed effective. We are not just saying all managers. We are saying effective managers. So what are we saying in essence? We are saying that managers need to adapt the organization so that it is ideally situated to accomplish current organizational goals. So what are we saying? Adapting the organization. You are adapting it to what? When you are adapting it to external environment as well as internal environment, then this internal and external environment are subject to change. They are changing. And therefore, for the survival of your organization in these environments, two environments, you have to adapt it to the changes, meaning your organization has to be flexible. If it is rigid, not ready to change according to the changes that are availing themselves, then you can be thrown out of the market. Yes. So we have different types of changes. There is number one, structural change, because an organization has an organizational structure. So you can find this structure at the top. It has the board of directors, the executive director, the middle management level, which has departmental managers, then the lower level of management, which has supervisory managers. Sometimes we call them production managers or operations managers, who are at the lowest. So when it comes to structural change, we are saying this has to do with the changes in the overall formal relationships within an organization. So we are saying, in other words, organizational structure in an organization brings about formal interrelationships within the organization. Examples of structural change includes reorganizing departments or business units. For example, if we have two departments, sales departments, and we have another one called marketing departments. So these are two departments. We can merge them to become one department, and we call it sales and marketing department. Look at procurement department and production department. You see, we can merge them, and then we have procurement and production department. So what we are doing, we are reorganizing, adding employee positions. Yes, we can have fewer employee positions, but when we expand the company or the organization, we can have more position, and therefore it changes the structure of the organization. Revising job roles. Like whenever you are employed, you are given job descriptions, which we can also call terms of reference. These terms of reference are very important, or job descriptions. But you see, maybe your job descriptions shows given amount of work or scope of work to be done for a given time. But with other changes, you might find maybe they are adding you more work, or they are lessening your work. Therefore, they have to revise your job description. Yes. Now, number two, we have technological change that an organization can initiate, or the management can initiate in an organization. So here, implementation of new technologies is often forced upon an organization as the environment shifts. Like right now, the environment, the industrial environment, the market environment is changing technologically. So if your organization will not adapt to those changes technologically, then your organization will be left out, and therefore it will fail to achieve a competitive advantage in relation to its competitors. For example, an industry upgrade in a commonly used software platform may require that employees learn new ways of working. So whenever there is technological change to do with IT, then even the workers will undergo some in-service trainings to make sure they are abreast with the new technology, and therefore they can be able to apply it. Number three, there is culture change. We have already looked at what culture is all about the organization, and we were saying this culture involves goals, vision, mission, values, norms, ways of doing things. So saying an organization can change culture, the way it does things, and that is a culture change. So it is often involves reshaping and renaming the core identity of the organization. So what we are saying is this: an organization is identified by its culture, and that is its brand, and that is its identity. We say a typical culture change process, if it is successful, requires many years to achieve, many years. So what are we saying? Change cannot be introduced suddenly. It has to be introduced gradually until the organization will change wholly, but spread on a span of time. Let us look at the organizational life cycle. Well, an organization is like an organism which is born, it grows, it matures, it gets old, and it dies. That's the life cycle. So, and we've said already that organization is an open system. It's a system. It's just like you, human being. So saying that most organizations begin as very small systems that feature very loose structures. When an organization is being formed, it's loosely bonded, sort of, yeah. As the business grows, the workload increases and more workers are needed. Now it is growing. the patterns and structures that appear in an organization need to evolve over time as an organization grows or declines through 4 predictable phases. So we say the life cycle of an organization encompasses 4 predictable phases. The first one is entrepreneurship phase of an organization. This is where the organization is usually very small and agile. Very small. It's just entering the market. So there's a lot of research, there's a lot of positioning, and it's very small. Number 2, survival and early success phase. So after forming an organization, this occurs as an organization begins to scale up and find continuing success, to scale up, to increase, and to position itself in the industry and in the market for survival. Number 3, sustained success or maturity phase. The organization expands and the hierarchy deepens, now with multiple levels of employees. So you might find when an organization or a company is starting, it has the owner and a secretary, 2 people. But when business starts increasing, you'll find now they'll employ a resource manager, production manager, I don't know what manager, you see. Then number 4, renewal or decline phase. So here, this occurs when an organization expands to the point that its operations are far-flung and need to operate somewhat autonomously, independently. That's what autonomously means. So functional structures become almost essential, and subunits may begin to operate as independent businesses. Yes, that's either renewing or just at the decline. So we are saying, to summarize, the key insight about the organizational life cycle is that the needs of an organization will evolve over time. It takes time. We are saying that different structures are needed at different stages. As an organization develops, the needs of employees will also change. An understanding of the organizational life cycle provides a framework for thinking and realizing that things change over time. Dimensions of change. When considering how to assess the need for change in an organization, it can be helpful to think of 3 dimensions: the scope change, the level of change, and the intentionality of change. So when you are bringing about change, we have to know the scope of change. What change are you bringing? Then what level? Because changes are at different levels in the organization. Then what is the intention of your change? So number 1, let us look at the scope of change. It refers to the degree to which the required change will disrupt current patterns and routines. Yes. So incremental change refers to small refinements in current organizational practices or routines that do not challenge, but rather build on or improve existing aspects and practices within the organization. Common incremental change practices are lean, and 6 Sigma is applied, which are used to find relatively small changes that can generate greater efficiencies in process. So you are introducing changes that will improve on the efficiencies at various subunits. So we are saying that an organization can improve its product line efficiencies by identifying small discrepancies in process, then fixing them in a systematic way. Yes. So transformational change refers to significant shifts in an organizational system that may cause significant disruption to some underlying aspect of the organization, its processes or structures. So what am I trying to underscore here? I'm trying to say that transformational change, it brings transformation. A change can be moving from one point to another. That can still be a change. Yes. Then we have strategic change. It's a change either incremental or transformational that helps align an organization's operations to the organizational structure. So what we are saying is that, like most of the organizations, they have 5-year organizational structure, which stipulates clearly what this organization is supposed to achieve within 5 years. And therefore, it brings change because it is reviewed and revised after every 5 years. Therefore, that's a change in itself. So we finished about the types of change that can be introduced in an organization. Another dimension that is very pertinent and very important, if not essential, the level of change. So this refers to the breadth of the system that need to be changed within an organization. So here we are more of interested in, for example, individual change, individual level change. This focuses on how to help employees to improve some active aspect of their performance, or the knowledge they need to continue to contribute to the organization in an effective manner. So this is the level of change. So change can be at individual level. There is group level change. You remember in our last topics, we looked at groups. So in an organization, we have groups. So we have a change that can take place at group level. So we are saying that group level change centers on the relationships between people and usually focuses on helping people to work more effectively together. Yes. Then there is team development, or team building is one of the most common forms of a team change process. Like many companies and organizations, towards the end of the year, they can take their employees maybe like to Berbera, just to go and stay there for 1 week. Now that's what we call team building. There are so many things being done. Then at the end of it, employees who performed, who excelled in the year, they'll be given rewards, prizes, they'll be given, there'll be bonus for whatever employees or what have you. Then they proceed for some break before they will resume in the coming year in January. And then there is organizational level change. This affects the entire organization. Yes, the entire organization changing. Yeah. And this can come in terms of the structural change that will take place. Then number 3 dimension is intentionality. Intentionality is the final dimension of change and refers to the degree to which the change is intentionally designed or purposefully implemented. So what we are saying here, we are saying that planned change is an intentional activity or a set of intentional activities that are designed to create movement towards a specific goal of end. When you plan something, that's intentional. It's not accidental. So we're saying that it is often said that the only constant thing is change. So managers need to have the ability to understand the dimensions of change, know what drives change, and know how to implement changes to meet and exceed organizational goals. You have to know how to implement change, because if you implement change wrongly, the employees will be suspicious of that change. Even if it's a good one, they will resist it. So the three types of change are structural, technological, and cultural changes. We've already seen that. So managers need to understand change as an organizational pertinent thing. One of the key responsibilities of management is to design organizational structures that will allow an organization to accomplish its primary objectives. So we're saying that the structure should always match the need for coordination. The structure, because the structure comes along with organization of the organization. And organization, as a principle of project management, is to do with coordination. So you make sure the structure, the departments, the units coordinate, link. There is logical linkage. Only then can they understand how to draw on the concepts of bureaucracy to appropriately design a structure that will maximize the likelihood of organizational success. Yes. Glossary. Glossary for this topic is just giving us very pertinent, very basic, very fundamental terminologies that are used in change. So you'll find that in this topic, we have not looked at resistant to change. We're only looking at change in the organization. So there is what we call structural change. What does it mean? These are changes in the overall formal relationships or the architecture of relationships within an organization. Technological change. This is implementation of new technologies, often forces organizations to change according to new technologies. Cultural change involves reshaping and reimaging the core identity of the organization. Differentiation, the process of organizing employees into groups that focus on specific functions in their organizations. It's like creating heterogeneity in the organization. Entrepreneurship, the process of designing, launching, and running a new business. Then scope of change. Scope of change, the degree to which the required change will disrupt current patterns and routines. Scope of change. Incremental change. These are small refinements in current organizational practices or routines that do not challenge, but rather build on or improve existing aspects and practices within the organization. Transformational change. Significant shifts in an organizational system that may cause significant disruptions to some underlying aspect of the organization, its processes, or its structures. Strategic change, a change either incremental or transformational that helps align an organizational operations with its strategic mission and objective. So when we talk about operations, this is what happens at the lower level of management. That's where we have operations managers, production managers. So we are trying to say that what is happening at the lower level must be executed or must be aligned to what was done at the top management level, strategic planning level in the organization. Level of organization. This is the brief of the systems that need to be changed within an organization, meaning exactly what needs to be changed. Individual level change. This focuses on how to help employees to improve some active aspects of their performance or the knowledge they need to continue to contribute to the organization in an effective manner. Group level change. This will center on the relationships between people and focuses on helping people to work more effectively together in that particular group. Organization level change. A change that affects the entire organizational system on several of its units, or several of its units, yeah. Intentionality, the degree to which the change is intentionally designed or purposefully implemented. Planned change, it's an intentional activity or set of intentional activities that are designed to create movement toward a specific goal. Unplanned change, this one is what happens. It's a change that is not within any plan. It happens, an emergency. Yeah. We'll come to the end of topic 9, and I will give you 5 to 10 minutes to go for salad, that is to go for prayer. Then when we come back, we shall move to topic 10. Otherwise, thank you very much. Welcome back to our lesson. We are going to look at topic 10, where we are going to look at politics and conflict in organizations. Well, where there are so many people, there'll be conflict. There'll be politics. Some people say politics is bad. It's just because they don't understand the definition of what politics is. Let me define it according to Phillemon in my book published in 2018. This book is titled Challenges of NGOs in Contributing to Economic Development of Third World Countries. Sorry. I define it as politics is a process, a way through which we deliberate on issues, we solve issues, and we make decisions out of those deliberations. Politics. That's politics. So, Alan, welcome. To understand To understand organizational power, politics, and conflict, first, it is needed to understand what organization is. Organization is a social unit of people, systematically arranged and managed to meet a need or a path to pursue collective goals on a continuing basis. So all organizations have a management structure that determines relationships between functions and positions, and subdivides and delegates roles, responsibilities to be carried out in a defined task-oriented way. In simple word, organization is a group of people which come together for the common motive and goal. So their structure leads to the flow of power, authority, and responsibility. Power is said to be like love. Jalai, love. Impossible to define by easy enough to recognize. Why? Because in Somali, for example, there's no difference between love and like. Both of them are Jalai. So we are saying everyone know that power is until they come to define it. So we have sources of power. Sources of power. There is legitimate power, what we call authority. In this form, power comes with your designation and which is being accepted by the members of the organization. What are we saying here? We are saying, like if you are executive director, that's a position you have been given in the organization. That is a designation. And therefore, that position by itself, it has authority. And that is legitimate power. There is reward power. Reward power is power which you have the authority to punish and to reward. So if people realizes that you have the power to punish and you have the power to reward, they'll make sure they do the work according to your specification. There is coercive power. In simple word, it is the ability to punish someone, to force someone, that's to coerce. This form of power is required to maintain proper flow of work and discipline in the organization of the workplace. There is number 4, expert power. It is the ability of one to influence others on the basis of his own interpersonal skills, like knowledge, thoughts, expertise, etc. Like when you are an engineer, atomic engineer, you see that is source of power, and you have that power because of your expertise. Number 5, we have what we call referent power. Referent power. It is referred to the interpersonal, that it refers to interpersonal relationship or the image of a person among the people. This can be derived in the form of respect, love, and even affection. Authority is being more recognized and known by the people as a source of power due to the existence in the social setup. Phases of power. Phases. Steve Lukes, a British political and social theorist, claimed that power has three phases. Sate wajihi. Sate wajihi. Three phases. The first phase, decision making. In this phase of power, the member of the groups participate evenly in the decision-making process. So these views of all the members are welcome, and the decision is taken after or oftenly or based on this common view. Phase 2, non-decision making. In this phase of power, the members or the groups who have power won't allow the less powerful group to participate in decision-making process, particularly when some manipulation done by a group or an individual is being discussed. And this is where we go to dialectical materialism, as espoused by Karl Marx in his theories of conflict in the society, where those at low level are struggling to come up, and those who are up, they are struggling to exert pressure and make sure those who are below them in the society remain there. Phase 3, ability to shape preferences and perception. This is a very radical phase of power where individuals or groups try to limit the freedom of other and treat other badly. Yes. Yeah, that's another phase which is not a good one. So let us move to organizational politics. The concept of organizational politics evolved during 1990s and considered to be the primary component in contemporary business practices. Because some people say, oh, politics is only with the political parties. That is wrong. That shows how small your brain is. But if you have read widely, you'll realize that politics is everywhere. So what are we saying? Politics means behaviors that others perceive as self-service tactics for personal gain at the expense of other people and possibly organization. The theoretical view of organization politics is that politics has no place in the organization. Yeah, that's what people say, and the management will say, we don't want politics in this organization. That shows that they don't understand the comprehensive definition of politics. Organizations work on with the principle to maximizing utility and to achieve organizational goals. But in the actual sense or world, such a theory hardly applies. An organization is a group of people with different objectives and different viewpoints to achieve those objectives, which results in fight to move forward and prove oneself, right where politics generally comes into picture. So we are saying where interest is the one of the major factor for organization politics, it happened most of the time where the interest of different groups or members, clash with each others, which lead to the politics and conflict in the organization. Best example for this is employee of the month. So here, interest can be classified into three parts: task, meaning this type of interest is concerned with the work of a member in the organization. This form of interest leads to things like organizational goals, profit maximization, targeting market, and all other source of organizational interest. Number two, external. This type of interest develops due to the factors outside the organization. Yes. So this type of interest develops due to domestic pressure, social and professional obligations, like relationship with subordinates and trade union, etc. What about career? Interest in the career. When it comes to career interest, person may take decisions which does not involve the best interest of the organization. In such an interest, people give much priority of their own interest and own goods as compared to the organizational interest. So, politics have various negative effects on the organization, which includes violation chain of command, throwing temper and aggressively to others, saying no to the top level management, upstaging your supervisor, etc. Politics leads to make imbalance in the organization. It can misbalance the functional approach of the organization and affect the harmony in the organization. What is conflict? Conflict is nothing but the clashing of opposite interests. So in simple words, it is the stage where two different viewpoints clash, or can say as stage opposition. Stage opposition. Yes, stage opposition. So, organizational conflict is being viewed different by various organizational theories. Some say conflict is not needed in the organization and should be removed with compliance and control, whereas some theories say conflict is the normal part of organization life. We need conflict because we learn from conflict. As much as we don't need conflict, that's what we are trying to say. So there are theories who say an organization must have conflict to be able to improve. Yes. Yeah. So the first theory is known as traditional theory. It says that conflicts are bad, are caused by troublemakers, and should be subdued. To subdue something is to suppress something. The second theory is known as contemporary theory, which says that the conflict between the humans is unavoidable. We cannot avoid it. So there are various reasons behind the conflicts in the organization, which all can be summarized in the following category. Incompatible goals, meaning if we have different goals we are pursuing, they are incompatible, so they'll conflict, they'll clash. Then differentiation. When we have different views, values, and beliefs, experiences, religion, trainings, yeah, that will bring about conflict. Task interdependencies. When task A depends on task B, or task B depends on task A, in the event that task A is not properly done, then it will affect task B, and that's a conflict. Scarce resources, Walala. Scarce resources it's a source of scarce resources is a source of conflict. How? Resources are not enough, and we have unlimited ones. So there is fighting, competing for the scarce resources. Ambiguous rules. When rules are not clear, when rules are biased, they create resistance from the employees, and therefore there'll be a conflict. Communication problems. When communication is not effective, then it brings about conflict. Unresolved conflict. Unresolved conflict bring another conflict. Like if husband and wife, they had a conflict about salaries. The wife is not willing to show the husband how much she earns, and the husband is not willing to show the wife how much he earns. 2 years down the line, any other conflict would trace its origin to that unresolved conflict. So we have positive effects of conflict. So we are saying conflict is not bad. Yes, sorry, I'm responding to administrative whatever, but no. So we're saying that conflict is good. One, it brings about diffusion of conflict. Diffusion or flow of conflict shows that people are working and think in the organization. So it shows that they are no monotonously working like much whatever. Number two, stimulation of a search for new facts or resolutions. When there is a conflict, all people involved will want to search for what is needed to resolve the conflict. Then conflict increase in group cohesion and performance. When there is conflict, people start associating with each other and understanding each other, and therefore it cements the relationships. Assessment of power and ability. So power and ability of an individual can be clearly identified from a conflict situation. You can be able to tell, this one has power or has ability to do this and that. Negative effects of conflict. Impediments to smooth working. It interferes with the smooth working in the organization. Diminishing output. It reduces the output. It increase in the possibility of violence conflict. A small conflict of just arguing can end up into fist fighting. So as we mentioned above, if conflict does not resolve or not be kept in the controlled environment, it will harm the organization. The overall result of such a negative effect is to reduce employees' commitment to organizational goals and organizational efficiency. So these negative effects of conflict can lead to disintegration, meaning breaking up. So importance must be given to timely intervention to resolve conflict. Even in a marriage, it is important to solve any small conflict, timely. Otherwise, it will expand and explode into a divorce, talaka. So power, conflict, power, politics, and conflict, if carried properly in the organization, then it can make the work environment healthy and leads to the increase in productivity of the organization. They should be practiced in the controlled manner in which it helps to maintain or balance the work situation. If manager manage these things properly in the work environment, then it can make the positive changes in the growth of the organization. So we're saying that through the networking and information flow in the organization, manager can keep a track on things going around. So, my dear students, we've come to the end of our lesson. Yes. And this is lesson 5, which has 2 topics. So if you have a question or a concern or a comment, please do that in the Google Class pod.